It's August 18th, 2020, and this is going to be one of those videos. You're literally seeing me pace back and forth in my room, something I haven't ever done before in a YouTube video. This is literally what we go through a lot, pacing back and forth. Sometimes it lasts an hour or two and we just, pace. This is what living with autism is like. But in this video I want to reveal something that has happened 3 years ago, today and tomorrow. And one thing about this reveal is I never told this to a living soul before. Like I said in previous videos, if I don't come forward exposing certain things that has been happening, then I'm no different than a bully. And if I don't stand by my words and what I say, then I'm a hypocrite. My goal is to encourage a lot of people, especially those living with autism, just encourage them that they could do what they set their mind to do. If I could do it, then so can they. I published a book which is outstanding in itself, and if I could do that, I'm sure you could do more. And one of the biggest things is that if you're holding or bottling things up inside, then please just let it out. It would be a release. So 3 years ago today, August 18th, 2017, first, I don't believe there's anything magical by doing this on the anniversary day, but it's just, I don't know, to me and my autistic brain, it's like, it's something that's more meaningful, I guess, but I don't believe I have to wait till this date, even though I've been waiting for this date for months. So this was in the middle of one of the many worst years of my life, a lot of things happening one after the other, especially in August 2017. And around this time I was self-teaching myself calculus in preparation for my upcoming semester. I watched scores of YouTube videos learning about derivatives and all that. I would practice on sheets of paper as well as the whiteboard. In fact, this is the actual whiteboard. So 3 years ago I was doing like basic, math volume in preparation for calculus. To set the background and have this make sense, 5 years prior to this, in August of 2012, it was right before I became a senior at high school, and I would go out around the neighborhood and just take hikes, and it's a catharsis. And as I grew older, like around 2012, I would go on hikes around the neighborhood by myself, and it's really a release. It helps me clear my thoughts, go over some stuff. Like if I self-taught myself something, I would go over it. I would rehearse how I would answer other people, any questions I would ask people. Again, really briefly, just for background purposes, in August of 2012, I would go on hikes, and they would be like dusk to early night, maybe between 7 and 9-ish. And I would just take a short hike around the neighborhood. That turned into memories. Each time I hike, depending on which month it is, brings its own set of memories. And so I have August hiking memories. But in 2017, I was thinking, well, it's about the 5-year anniversary from when that part really started, where I would go on early night hikes. I'm like, I have to go out, I have to get out of the house one of these days before it gets too late in August, just to relive the memories at this certain part of the month. And what I'm about to tell you, I've never told a living soul. I have literally never told a living soul. I've been holding this in for 3 years. That's the unhealthy part. This night of 2017, on the 18th, I decided to, go out again to relive the memories and everything, and I would try and follow the same itinerary. So I walked out. It was just past 8:00 p.m. and I started to go my usual itinerary. I turned down 16th Street and I approached the park in which I grew up in, Heller Park. And something happened at Heller Park, and it was the first part of 2 incidences that happened with the same man that happened over there. And what happened next is where I'm going to take you right now. So I'm over here at Heller Park. I apologize for how dark it is. I was here a few hours ago, and of all days there's tons of people here and they wouldn't leave for hours, which is totally okay. It's totally in their right. I don't mind. It's just going to be a little bit of a dark video, which is sort of perfect because 3 years ago when this happened, it was at nighttime. It happened about 15 minutes after this exact time. But anyway, I was walking over here and I noticed in that bench over there from afar there were two people sitting on it. It looked like a father and a child, and they were pointing up at the stars and such. I didn't really think much of it. I thought maybe they were stargazing or was looking at a planet or something, and so I just continued to walk as normal. And so I get to about right here, and I see this man on the bench a little closer, and I see the child. And about right here, I noticed that the child got up and started running to the lamppost over there. Maybe she saw something like a moth or a cricket or something. And it was about right here when the man on the bench turned to me, and he looked straight at me, stared me down, and would not let up. And so I'm like, okay, here we go again. I mean, this bench is infamous, in fact, by another story. I actually mentioned this park in chapter 17 of my book right here, Heller Park, and I talk about this bench where two teenagers were sitting on it, and it was a June 2014 story, and I was coming the other way. Fast forward a few years, there's a man on the bench, and he was, staring me down, just like that lady in March of 2014, which I also mentioned in the book. And so I continued to just keep on walking, and I could tell in my peripheral vision that the man was still staring at me. And I tried to not think anything of it until I saw the girl right over here. So the girl was about right here at the time, and when we passed, we locked eyes for like a second. I'm like, she looks very familiar, but I'm like, what are the chances? And I kept on walking. It was about right here, right after we passed, and it clicked. And I turn around and I say the name of my third grade teacher, who at the time was teaching first grade, because she was in her class. And she looked at me and she had a surprised countenance and said, "Hey, I remember you." And I'm like, yes, I was the juggler, because I went to Newport Heights Elementary and to juggle. The whole story of how that started is in my book. I just kept on seeing the man right here, and he was just looking at me. But the one thing is when I turned around and I said the name of the teacher, the man over there yelled back at me like one word, if I remember. It was either no or wrong or something like that. I think he said no. So as soon as the girl recognized me, I told the dad I was the juggler in her class for a few times this past academic year. And I forget if he acknowledged or what. He just looked at me with this angry, mean stone face, basically, like Buster Keaton. Of course, being neighborly and friendly, he said, "Okay, well, have a great night," or like, "Have a good night," or something like that. And I forget if he said "you too" or what. I mean, he might have, or he might have said thanks. But if he did, it was probably in a way that was bold, monotone, and like, "I don't care about you" type thing. But it's just the assumption that gets to me, kind of like that lady on March 22nd, 2014. That I don't know what she was thinking, but that's another long story I don't want to get into. So I continued to walk down this road, the sidewalk, this pathway, and I'm telling myself, I'm forcing myself, don't think about it, Matthew, don't think about it. This happened before, just keep walking. And I remember crossing the street, and I was continuing down Westminster. I continued to walk down that way, and it just hammers me, and there's nothing I could do. Same thing happened in June 2014 when I was going the other way, and that those two teenagers laughed at me for being who I am. As soon as I passed by, and I articulated in my book, and they laughed, and I heard, even though they probably tried to conceal their laughter, I was saying, I knew it was going to happen, don't let it bother you. But guess what? It did. In a soliloquy that night, every time this happens, I just, have a soliloquy, and sometimes it's an hour, sometimes it's a few hours. And if you don't know what I mean by soliloquy, I don't really have time to get into it, but that chapter 17, in which I mentioned this park and was talking about, it's called an olive branch in a soliloquy. Briefly, a soliloquy is where I'm at home, I'm alone, and I just go through things. Well, in my room, I'm just talking things out by myself, sometimes an hour, sometimes 2, 3, or 4 hours. And I can't stop once I get started, and I run through everything that has ever happened to me, and I pretend as if I'm confronting the person, talking to the person, how I would give an answer, give an explanation, how I would prove that I'm really a nice guy trying to help out other people. I shouldn't be discriminated for something that I didn't ask for, which is autism and such, and everything that came with autism. But you know me, I'm optimistic about my autism and such, and I'm going around the world proving time and time again that we're not different than anybody else, and if I could do all these things, I'm sure you could do more. And next evening I decided to start fresh anew and continue to hike around in the evening, early night. But essentially I found out that I was wrong. So now it's the day, August 19th, 2020. So what happened after that night, I went back home and I tried to brush it off. I tried to distract myself, and I couldn't stop thinking about that man. And I decided to do more calculus work and pre-studying and math. So as you see in those timestamps, I was up pretty late again. I was thinking, well, here I am self-teaching myself calculus, and I'm thinking, well, why should I push through if I'm just going to be treated like this by almost everybody? Not everybody, but almost everybody for the rest of my life. So that evening I decided to go on a hike again to, change what happened the night before and just be happy. And so you saw that picture, the picture right before I left on August 19th, 2017, and that smile was a smile of optimism. Like, I'm optimistic about my life, and I'm optimistic about everything else, and as you'll find out, that was wrong. So about what just happened. So if you live in the Costa Mesa area, you know that I'm taking the opposite route. That's because I'm 90 to 95% certain that on this day I took another route. I don't know, maybe to try and change things so that I don't repeat what happened yesterday. Besides, what are the chances that would happen again? Repeat what happened the day before. And there's a story that happened that I'm sure it happened in August 2017. I can be sure it was August 19th. And I was coming up this way, and I noticed that there were like a father and son over here playing soccer. And anybody playing soccer, football, surfing, skateboarding, like, my high respect to them, because those are things that I can't do. So now I was coming down this way on this day, and all of a sudden I see this high-powered soccer ball just, zoom by at 100 miles an hour at head length. And so as I decided to come closer, I slowly crept around over here, take a look, and I saw the father, with a smile, jogging over to get and retrieve the soccer ball. And I was stuttering and such. I basically got my message across saying if I was just maybe like 2 seconds ahead, that literally would have knocked my head off. Literally, it was that fast, it was that powerful, or at least knocked me to the ground. But anyway, we both laughed it off, and he continued to retrieve the soccer ball. But the boy, on the other hand, this is what happened when people just stare at me, and it's like I don't know what they're thinking and such. And the boy seemed to be staring at me, kind of wondering who I am and such. Why do I look like this? I don't know. Those are the worst case scenarios that I think of. But I was taken off guard, but at the same time, after what happened, the day before, and almost, what happens often, I just didn't want to think about it. And so I just continued to walk this way all the way over here. Now, from this moment on, for sure it was August 19th, 2017, 100%. And guess who I saw right over here? I saw the same girl from the night before walking this way and was probably about to leave. We're like hello again. and she's like, either hello or I remember you again or something like that. And then I'm like, oh boy, the father must be here. And sure enough, I looked up and the first person I saw right there, standing right there, was a profile of the father. So I'm like, okay, this is the ultimate test right here. Did he really hate me or, dislike me, or was it just a misunderstanding? And he was facing that way and like laughing and saying goodbye. It was like the only time I ever saw him with a smile, or the penultimate time I ever saw him with a smile. And so then he comes and he turns around and he looks at me right over there. And so now I'm coming this way, and as soon as he turns and looks at me, his entire countenance just drops. I mean, completely drops. And it's like he went from being cheerful, happy, saying goodbye, to a completely hateful countenance, just completely disapproving. And it has to be like a cartoon. I mean, it's like he was laughing 1 second, he turned, looked at me, and just dropped his countenance. And so now I know positively, so I continued to walk, and now it's like eye to eye. So we lock eyes, I'm looking at him, he's looking at me, and I'm waiting for him to say something to me so that I could, bring some cheer and say like, how are you doing, or have a good day, or something like that. And so we continued to walk, and we didn't stop locking eyes right here. And then finally, when we got to about right here, he said, hi, how are you? A very low, monotone voice. If you heard it, it's like, I really do not care about you type. Hi, how are you? Low voice, a frown. He never let up on that frown. So I'm like, here's my chance. And so we turn around, we just passed each other, and I smiled and I said, I'm doing very well, how are you? And then that's when he literally blew up. He changed his countenance again in a split second. He was like smiling and laughing, saying goodbye to that guy, and then he dropped his countenance, and now it's grinny smile kind of. And then he yells back at me like, and this is all instantaneous, he yells back at me and says, don't worry about it. And then he just went off. And then the daughter, they kept on going their merry way, but the daughter started to laugh, a type of embarrassing laugh, and I was able to tell. It was like, Dad, and she laughed, but you could tell that she was embarrassed, nervous, and such. I don't know, the dad probably just muttered something on the way back to the car, but I thought that's a very pitiful lesson from a parent, from a dad, that it's okay that if a person doesn't look like you or act like you or talk like you, it's okay if you just discriminate. Hopefully people like them would just move out of this city, move out of this county, or just get out of this world or whatever. And that really is hurtful and demeaning and such. I've been holding this in for 3 years now. Another reason why I believe that this is legitimate, of course, is I've never seen him before, the night before, and we've never seen each other here thereafter. We've never seen each other again, far as I know. There wasn't any other confrontation or altercation or anything like that, and that's just based on sight. That's basically, he saw me and just started to hate and discriminate. Now I understand to some this may seem a bit trivial, like of little importance or value, or maybe just like one small thing that happened. Don't let it like ruin your life. And I'm not letting it ruin my life. I later, a couple years later, got a degree in chemistry, and I'm pursuing a higher degree in biochemistry right now. I'm continuing with what I love to do. The next day was my first day volunteering, playing piano at the church that I started playing piano at, August 20th, 2017. And I remember that day and being there, and I think the next week or two after, and just I still had a lot of things on my mind, including how I am viewed socially, like that man. So like the very next day when I was at church, like even in the audience, I kept on thinking about that man and such, and just thinking, what is it about me? But right after it happened, August 19th at the park, I kid you not, but I was quite paranoid. I was worried and paranoid about seeing the man again. I didn't know, like, any turn I take, what if he's there? What if I turn, he's in his car? And I was very quite anxious. I mean, I like to think that I would have been brave enough to, like just say, so what do you mean? Like, what is it about me and such? I mean, I could have done that. I just lost my nerve because I was just so gobsmacked that even happened. What he said, like, don't worry about it and such. I mean, that was confirmation to me, and trivial to most people, but for people with autism, we cannot forget that. That's one of the many main points that I'm trying to convey in this life mission toward equality and everybody just treating each other as they would want to be treated, and with respect and all that. I don't want to have like celebrity status or whatnot. I don't want to have any of those things, mansions, cars, money, or anything like that. I just want to be a help, and I want everybody to just work together and learn to get along with each other despite differences. So not just me. I'm not the only one. There's a lot of people, advocates out there like me, so I'm not the only one. But when we all work together, it could get this world to be a much better place than it is already. Again, I thank you for all the feedback and support that I do have. And I'll never stop thanking you for that, even if it's a million times. But anyway, I started to swing around. Like later in the hike, I continued to come around, and I came back, and I was a little hesitant about walking by the park, and I think ultimately I got my courage to do so. Of course he wasn't there, but I took like I guess one final picture from that day. But again, I was just worried about seeing him again. In fact, it didn't stop. The next Monday, August 21st, was the Great American Solar Eclipse, and OCC had their telescope viewing, and I was part of the astronomy club while I was there, and I love astronomy. And I saw there's a lot of people there, and I was so paranoid. There's a lot of people there. I was so worried because this is a family-friendly event. Children and adults and fellow college students and their parents and such. Well, anyway, I was just worried I was going to see them. I did, however, see a Royal Ranger, his younger sister, and the mother. But this is a type of Royal Ranger that sort of discriminates against me. So when he saw me, it was like, "What are you doing here?" type countenance, and so he literally almost fell over or so, and such. And he gave that that smile that told me that he did not want to have seen me. So what I do hope and pray is that these people will see this video eventually, realize the wrong that they've done, or maybe somebody else is watching this video and thinking, oh, this is how I treated this guy so long ago or so little ago. Maybe I should go and apologize to that person and be a friend. I'm not asking to be like best friends where we have to see each other and give each other gifts and go back and forth and attend parties or whatnot. Nothing like that at all. Just a world where I could walk down a free public sidewalk or a park and not be discriminated against, and rather just smiling at one another, saying hi and have a great day and such. I mean, while I was at the park waiting to film, there's a person that came over and said have a great day and such. Well, we said a few things like hellos and all that, but he said have a great day, and we've never seen each other before. But that's the type of camaraderie like a community should have. But anyway, back on August 21st, I didn't see him. However, on September 9th, 2017, we went to a Newport Beach CERT. It's like a venue, and we're just checking it out over at Newport Beach, I think at City Hall. And we got there early, sometime after the event started. And I was looking around. I was checking my back or my shoulder. I didn't know if he would appear there, if that man and the daughter would appear there. However, there was when we were by the CPR part of CERT, and there was a father and a daughter there, and it just reminded me of them and such. And it's like I'm not in fear or terror. I hate talking about myself, but I'm trying to prove a point. is that this man didn't know me. He didn't know that, I had the periodic table memorized, I had the presidents memorized, I was going for a degree in chemistry, I was self-teaching myself calculus, I earned what's equivalent to the Eagle Scout through Royal Rangers, and all this stuff. He didn't know all the stuff that I've been to and that I've done and have accomplished, and what I'm doing for boys from K through 12 every week. And really putting my heart and soul into the Royal Ranger program, and juggling and making children happy at elementary schools, and I was about to volunteer for the senior citizens of the community playing piano. And again, I hate saying it like that, but my point is that he didn't know that I could do all that. He probably thought I was a low IQ idiot or something, or somebody like that. And let me turn this around. I see him, and at first sight, I'm not thinking anything negative about him. I admire anybody who does something with their life. Now he it looked like, he had a hat on, but it looked like he had a bald head, so I'm thinking he may be a Marine veteran or a police officer or whatever, and that is, I have a high salute for that guy. I don't know that, but see, I give people the benefit of the doubt. He may have something like in finances, or maybe it's just a store manager, and still he's doing something with his life. He's not giving up on his dreams, and plus he's a father, so he has a wife, kids, and such, and so and by the looks of it, it seems like that other than this, he is a good parent otherwise. So I give the person the benefit of the doubt, is what I'm saying. I see that with everybody that has treated us wrongly, not just me, but us wrongly and such. Well, anyway, the story never left me for the past 3 years, and I kid you not, I'll tell you a quick story. Remember what I was saying about soliloquies? In order for me to feel closure and complete, I must finish the soliloquies. And it could happen while I'm in bed trying to go to sleep. It usually happens when I'm standing and I pace back and forth for a few hours. I kid you not, I had a soliloquy a few weeks ago, from 1 a.m., 1 or 2 a.m. to 4 or 5 a.m. I am not joking. I'm not joking. I literally had a 3 or 4 hour soliloquy just a couple of weeks ago on a lot of this stuff. Not just, 2017, but, all throughout. And I didn't know it was going to last that long, but, I would be restless if I didn't, go through the entire thing. And sometimes people with autism just need to be alone. Well, anyway, one night, and I think this was 2018 or possibly early 2019, but I thought about this story again from August 18th to the 19th, 2017. I thought about this again, and I kid you not, this time I was in bed, lights are out, everything. I was trying to go to sleep. It was past midnight, 1 or 2 in the morning sometime, and I go through the entire thing. Now, in this soliloquy, I was make-believing as if I was on an interview, a television interview, which I know will come sometime down the road, or even radio or podcast, where I, get to, explain about autism through my first-hand experience, and then maybe toward the end they'll ask me, so was there a time of your life this, or was there a time of your life that, and such. But I kid you not, I was going through the entire thing, the entire 2 days again, and finally, it was over. And I'm not joking, not more than 10 seconds, 15 seconds or so later, it started all over again. I don't know how, I don't know why. It just everything just dropped down to the first step, August 18th, 2017, and I had to say the whole entire story all over again in my mind in order for me to sleep that night and such. So this one incident is probably maybe not as trivial as some of you might think, and this is just one occurrence or incident out of several. Okay, now I got all of that out of my chest, out of my mind, everywhere. After 3 years, and you know what? I feel great. I feel a lot relieved, not 100% yet. I think the maximum closure would be if that man apologizes or watches this and then apologizes, and then we come to, because really no hard feelings, and that regardless, I forgive everybody. I'd still like an apology, and it's still in my heart, but I forgive regardless. Another thing that came out of this was sort of the start of my YouTube channel. Pretty much this incident was just one of the many catalysts to get me to start this channel. If you want to choose to share this, maybe you might think of somebody or family that may benefit from such a video. So anyway, stay strong, stay safe, stay healthy, and have an excellent day.